Detroit ends the month of August with a series win in Kansas City. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, September 1st, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. A great weekend of college football, NFL right on deck here starting later this week. But baseball season is still happening. And your Detroit Tigers just went into Kansas City and took 2 of 3 from the second place in the American League Central Division, Kansas City Royals. A fantastic series. You know, I feel like after, well, really, I mean, in the first half, I'll say, of August, there was a lot of doom and gloom surrounding this team. They had lost, 11 of 13, 12 of 14, whatever it was, at one point. Obviously, just this past week, that athletic series happens, and they looked pretty ugly out there. But going into last weekend against the Royals, the conversation was, you cannot let the Royals back in the race. You have to win these next 2 series against them. And obviously that came with, again, an absolute stinker of a 3-game set in Sacramento in between those 2 sets. But ultimately, the goal was to grow your lead and to take care of business against the second place team so that September was not some big dramatic finish. And that is exactly what they did. They take 2 of 3 from Kansas City in back-to-back weekends, go 4-6, or 4-2 rather, across those 6 games. This past weekend, they win 5-3 on Friday, lose 3-1 on Saturday, and then win 5-0 on Sunday. And just like that, the Detroit Tigers are 80-58. 80 wins before they play a baseball game in the month of September is truly remarkable. The division lead is now back up to 9.5 games as well. So first thought is kind of already what I've alluded to. So I guess it's not my first thought. It's like my third or fourth thought. But this was a huge series. Not only was, for all the reasons I've already said, but this was on the road. You know, the last time you played Kansas City last weekend was at home. This is going to Kansas City to end the month of August and taking 2 of 3. Also, I want to compliment the Royals, which I don't love doing. That was fantastic baseball. Really. Like, you had great pitching on both sides. You had big hits in big moments from both teams over the weekend. You had high-end, flame-throwing, high-leverage relievers. You had close games. Just high-intensity baseball. Everybody knew what was at stake, and everybody knew that this weekend and the last 2 weekends, really you can combine them all together, really matter. So I just loved watching the baseball really this whole weekend. And a lot of that, obviously, has to do with the fact that the Detroit Tigers ended up winning the series. I probably wouldn't be complimenting how fun of a series it was to watch if, they got swept or something. But Saturday obviously ended in a loss, but that game really highlights my point. That is an electric baseball game. 1-1 late. You're getting high-leverage relievers. Awesome, man. Good for the boys. Head back home with a massive series win in Kansas City, and now you're heading into the final month of the Major League Baseball regular season with 80 wins and almost a 10-game lead in the division. Bang, bang, bang. You cannot get too much better than that. So what went right this weekend? I want to start with the pitching. Total, combined, whatever other word is a synonym for those two words. 6 total runs in the entire series allowed from the Tigers pitching department. That is going to win you a lot of series. Only averaging 2 runs against the game is going to get you a series win more times than it's not. We'll start with Tarik Skubal, the man of the hour. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, and just 4 strikeouts. What's so amazing about him is that this was so far from his best stuff. I'd even venture to say that this was like not his best stuff really at all. The velocity was down, not to like a, oh my goodness, is he injured concern. We'll talk about, the variations of fastballs here in a second. But he just really didn't have a ton of swing and miss in the arm today. And he went 7 innings of shutout baseball. Now, the Royals, also, it's important to note, are one of the best hit to contact teams in baseball. They have among their whole lineup, top to bottom, is among the fewest swings and misses and whiffs in the sport. And so they talked about it. I want to give credit to FanDuel Sports Network because they did a great job of highlighting it going into the game. They do not do well against sinkers. On the year, a lot of their hitters have struggled against sinkers. And so Tarik, instead of throwing 98, 99 mile an hour 4-seam fastballs, threw 95, 96 mile an hour 2-seam fastballs that sink. And he bombarded them with them. And he got a lot of weak contact, a lot of ground balls, a lot of outs, had a few double plays mixed in there. Just incredible. 7 innings of shutout baseball without your best stuff, without a lot of swing and miss. It is a beauty. I think, if he had, mowed down this lineup to the sense of like he had 12 strikeouts and no walks in 7 innings of shutout ball, then obviously I'd be like, oh my goodness, he's so good, right? He's getting swing and miss and strikeouts against a lineup that doesn't do that very often. But I think that it is almost just as impressive to do what he did do, which is play to the other team. Like the fact that he can attack you and maneuver through any lineup, no matter what your strengths and weaknesses are, I think is just as impressive as a guy that can strike out anybody, no matter how good or bad you are. So tip of the cap to Tarik, whose ERA on the season is now 2.18. And we're in September. That is miraculous for the favorite to win Cy Young yet again. Jack Flaherty, 5 2/3, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. That 1 earned run was obviously a home run against. His ERA is now 4.74 on the year. I thought the stuff was electric. He is just so inconsistent. If we get the Jack Flaherty that pitched for the Tigers for most of the first half of last year and has reared his head this season. It's not like he just hasn't shown up at all. This was a solid outing in terms of, stuff and swing and miss. But 3 or 4 outings ago, he had a really great outing with no runs and a high strikeout number. I mean, it was only even 4 Ks, but just had really timely swings and misses when he needed it. I feel like we'll talk about it a little bit more later. I feel like after every start, besides Tarik Skubal starts, the whole fan base just goes, OMG, what's the starting pitching rotation in the postseason? Is it, what's the order? Who's going to be in it? You kind of, I feel like almost have to just put Flaherty in that conversation and pray that it's an on night for him, because at his best, he's a top 3 pitcher in this rotation still. It's just been a wildly inconsistent season. This was a good outing, though. Tip of the cap. Let's talk about the bullpen that I also think had a really solid weekend. Then we'll talk offense. We'll do that right after this. First, though, got to talk to you all about our friends over at Upside. Tigers fans, are you still leaving money behind by paying full price for gas? Well, get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limitless promo code, LockedOnTigers, and get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. you could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, right? Sounds ridiculous, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. So don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code Locked On Tigers and get a limited 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code Locked On Tigers. Offers vary based on user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Also want to talk to y'all about FanDuel. We love our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It is the best, okay? Had a couple of stuff going on this weekend on FanDuel with the college football action. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app, but now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will be back tomorrow recapping this Labor Day showdown versus the New York Mets at home. We also have an important request here at Locked On. We want to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in today's show notes. Thank you for helping us out. The Detroit Tigers didn't need much help this weekend to take 2 of 3 from the Royals. We'll talk about the bullpen, who certainly did help an awful lot. So Friday, obviously Paddock doesn't pitch very well, but then you have Holton, Melton, Finnegan, Vest. 5 1/3 innings of shutout baseball. Finnegan with 3 strikeouts and 4 outs recorded. Finnegan now also, like, bigger picture, he threw 14 1/3 innings in the month of August. That is a very high workload for a 1-inning reliever. And obviously he's pitched 2 innings at times. He's done what he did once this weekend, and pitch, the final out of 1 inning and then carry over and finish the next. But he's not a long reliever by trade. High leverage, short outing, back end of the bullpen reliever, and threw over 14 innings in 31 days. That's a lot. And he still has not allowed a run as a Detroit Tiger. His ERA officially, it's September now, his ERA officially in the month of August was 0.00. His batting average against in the month of August is going to be, going into this last outing on Sunday, it was 0.71. It's going to go down, right? He has been a monster. A big part of that has been the splitter. We've talked about that a boatload on this show. Evan Petzold has written about it a lot at the Freep as well. The fastball also looked incredible on Sunday. He was topping out at like 97, 98 miles an hour with the heater, and then he just goes splitter way more than he ever has in his career, and it's completely reinvented the type of reliever he was, which was already a really good one. The guy that was an all-star a year ago. So fantastic acquisition by the Detroit Tigers. Scott Harris in the front office. Fantastic execution by the player and the coaching staff, and tweaking the player a little bit to be even better than he already was. He has legitimately been one of, if not the best relievers in baseball since the trade deadline. And that is so huge to have down the stretch here in September and in the playoffs in October. It's also would be massive for the Tigers if Tommy Kahnle returned to form. He pitched once this weekend, 1 1/3 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 3 strikeouts. His ERA down to 4.76. That is a huge outing for Tommy Kahnle. I'm not just like completely back on board. Okay. We're not going to overreact to this one outing, but that is the best his changeup has looked in maybe 2 months. He was getting swings and misses on it. He was locating it pretty well. He hung one that got taken to the warning track. But outside of that, I thought that he looked really, really solid. And I thought that he mixed the fastball in at a decent clip as well. I think that, I think the ship has probably sailed on, holding your breath and expecting for Canely to be what he was the first 2 months of the season, really ever again. But if he can just get back to a solid, 3.5 ERA caliber reliever for the last month and change of the season here, that would go an awfully long way. Then you had Finnegan and Montero rather on Sunday. Montero I thought looked really good, and that's a few outings in a row where he's been really solid. An acquisition and a trade that a lot of people scrutinized very much, very loudly, myself included in that. And he's been really solid. Still, he only has really the one super high leverage situation. So still kind of shows you where he's at in the pecking order. But for him to be productive and be getting, those strikeout numbers as well has been a big deal too. So, okay. Boom. Pitching. Let's talk offense. Riley Greene on Friday, 3 for 5. He is now on the season hitting .270 with 32 home runs and 101 RBI. And it is August 31st as I tell you that. You're listening on September 1st. 32 homers, 101 RBIs before the month of September. And he's hitting .270 on the year still. The strikeout numbers are what they are, okay? They're frustrating at times. Everybody wants him to improve in that, okay? I promise. Nobody is sitting around going, yeah, we love if Riley Greene just his whole career struck out 35 to 40% of the time, okay? Everyone wants him to improve in that. But he is 24 years old and is putting up legitimately one of the best offensive seasons by a Detroit Tiger in certainly the last 10 years. It probably just straight up is the best in the last 10 years. Miggy might have had one more in like 2016 from a pure offensive standpoint that was pretty up there. But like you're talking about a guy who is, even if you go back since like 2000, right? It's not the best, obviously, because Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez had the one crazy year. Curtis Granderson had a crazy year. Like, obviously, it is not the absolute number one best, but it is in that category. It is in the tier of one of the better, if he ends with 35 plus home runs and 115 RBI, and bats over .270, it's a crazy good season for 24 years old. So hopefully the next step in his development is cutting down the strikeout numbers and increasing the walk numbers. Because if he can replicate this batted ball data, but cut down the strikeouts and increase the walks, you're talking about a superstar in the making. He's young. There's still room to grow, and he's been fantastic for the Tigers this year, outside of 2 just disgusting cold stretches. Dylan Dingler has also been fantastic for your Detroit Tigers this year. Had a home run on Friday, then goes 3 for 4 on Saturday. He's hitting .277 with a .760 OPS, 12 home runs, and grades out as an elite defender. His value cannot be understated. I'm serious. Like there is Riley Greene has figured it out and turned it around and whatnot from his cold stretch there in late July, early August. But like for real, there is a punter's chance that Dylan Dingler has the most WAR on the team by anybody not named Tarik Skubal, by any position player. And he doesn't play every day because catcher. He's been unbelievably valuable. I think the Tigers, it's safe to say now, probably was safe to say 3 months ago, have their catcher of the future, and that is just an awesome feeling. Speaking of catchers, Jake Rogers had a great performance on Sunday. This is 3 or 4 performances in a row where I've really liked his at-bats, and he's been rewarded for them, with results offensively. And then obviously we know what he still brings to the table defensively and in the clubhouse. So yeah, good. I mean, great to see, if he can just if his batting average can start with the number 2 and his OPS can start with the number 6 and he's a good defender, I would gladly take that out of a backup catcher. Gladly. What went wrong? Not a whole lot, but we'll talk about that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at PrizePicks. The episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. What went wrong this weekend? Chris Paddock, 3 2/3, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, no strikeouts, and 2 home runs. Was pulled before he even hit, I think, the 60 pitch mark as well. He just has 0 swing and miss stuff, man. Like it's not rocket science. Like you just watch the games, he gets no whiffs. He has had multiple outings, I think, as a Tiger, but certainly on the year, where his entire start he records like 1 single swing and miss. Has had a no strikeout outings. I feel like, again, earlier, as I said, every day the question is like, who do you want in the playoff rotation? I can't imagine, as it stands right now, things changed. I'm wrong all the time, but I can't imagine right now that Chris Paddock is going to be in this playoff rotation, if the postseason started tomorrow. So we'll see if he can make some adjustments and figure it out, but continues to just have like you're really just going out there, and every time he takes the bump, you're just hoping that there's a lot of ground outs and weak flyouts, because he's never going to have a high strikeout total. And that's just not trustworthy enough, I'll say, in postseason baseball. The offense on Saturday, I feel like, is something that people were frustrated by in the moment. It really doesn't bother me too much. Part of that, I'm sure, is because the Tigers bounced back and won on Sunday, and then, therefore won the series. They went 1 for 10 with RISP on Saturday. That's obviously awful. But like Kolek has had a really solid year for the Royals, their starter. And then you got the A-team bullpen. You got all their best relievers out of the pen there. And they've been those are good arms. Those are good, effective, productive relievers. So like it happens. Bobby Witt Jr. rather. I'm so used to Whit Merrifield just haunted me for like 9 years. So I'm just I hear and see the name Witt, and I just assume that he's the one that did damage. Bobby Witt Jr. is Bobby Witt Jr. He's one of the best players that the game has to offer. That's going to happen over the course of 162 as well. I think the rebound on Sunday is really huge. And I thought the approach throughout the weekend was much better. It was not great on Saturday. They didn't, work a lot of counts, and Kolek was able to go 6 innings, but as a whole, I'm not really too upset with that. You take 2 of 3 and yeah, gladly, and say thank you. Stuff. 80 wins before September, man. Who would have thought? Who would have thought we'd be here? I think it's so important to celebrate those kind of milestones and really acknowledge them. This is not 80 wins with 5 games left, and you're trying to be 500 for the first time in 10 years. Sounds familiar to last year. It should, right? This isn't you're nibbling your fingernails and it's down to the wire on if you're going to make the postseason or not. This is just acknowledging 80 wins before the month of September. You have even an average month. You play 500 baseball in September. you're talking about a win total that eclipses 90 and gets you what should be depending on what the Royals do, I guess, but a pretty comfortable cushion for a division title for the first time in 10 years, in 11 years. Just awesome. I want to reiterate this too, okay? Your eyes are not on the American League Central. That's not disrespect to the Royals, okay? This was a massive series that I was terrified for. They went out and took 2 of 3. They did their jobs. You have 1 month of baseball left and a 9.5 game lead. You are not watching the Royals results every day, sweating out what they do. You are looking at the top records in the American League. Go for the bye. I do not want the fate of this season put in a 3-game series. Anything can happen. The worst team, quote unquote, in the postseason is still really darn good at baseball and beats the division winner that's playing in the wild card round all the time. Get the bye. Get the bye. Get the bye. That is where our sights are set. At the time of this recording, there's no September call-up news, so we wait. That'll either get announced late Sunday night. I won't re-record. We'll talk about that tomorrow, unless it's like McGonagall. Then you'll never hear this episode, and I'll completely re-record the whole thing. But I'm expecting it to be relatively anticlimactic in terms of who they call up, especially on the pitching side. So we'll see, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. It'll be September 1st, and the rosters will expand from 26 to 28 players. News around the league: Aroldis Chapman extended by the Red Sox for a couple of years. That does kind of matter to the Tigers, not in 2025, but he's a guy that was set to be a free agent and is having an unbelievable year, like a completely fountain of youth, hasn't given up an extra base hit in like 2 months or something ridiculous. So yeah, like he's a guy that certainly the Tigers would have had their eyes on, and now it looks like will no longer be an option for them to add to the bullpen this winter. And then the other one was Walker Buehler was cut by the Red Sox. I'm good, man. I know that immediately, like half of the fan base saw that news and was like, you got to go get him. Would you rather have him or Paddock, et cetera? I don't know if the answer is Walker Buehler. Obviously, the upside is more there with Buehler. He was a Cy Young candidate at one point in his career before the injuries, but I need everybody to understand what he has done this year. He just got outright cut from a playoff team with a month left in the season for a rookie. Like his Savant page is hideous. His numbers are worse. He actually, this puts it in perspective. The Detroit Tigers have Tarik Skubal and then 4 guys that either have an ERA around 5 or Casey Mize, who, ERA is around 4, but that's due to the first half. In the second half, his ERA is like over 6 or over 7. Okay. Their rotation is abysmal. Walker Buehler would have the highest ERA of the Detroit Tigers rotation. It's like 5.6. That's comfortably higher than Flaherty. It's almost a run higher than Flaherty now. A run higher than Flaherty, which you've all been frustrated by. This is not some magical, like he can come in and just be a Cy Young candidate again. Actually, hilarious development. I'm checking my phone right now, and according to my phone, it appears that Dave Dombrowski has signed Walker Buehler. John Heyman and Ken Rosenthal both reporting that Walker Buehler is headed to the Phillies. So there you go. You can just forget we even had this conversation. And yeah, boom. But I'm good. I don't need Walker Buehler on my team the last month of the season in 2025. Okay, Mets at home 73-63 is their record at the time that I record this, but I believe they're finishing a ball game right around now. Sean Manaea versus Charlie Morton in game one. Manaea has been struggling mightily this season, so an opportunity for sure. Nolan McLean against TBD for the Tigers. McLean is like 3-0 with a 1 ERA. He has been dominant in his first 3 outings at the major league level. He's a rookie and has been phenomenal. And then Clay Holmes against Casey Mize. Holmes, pretty solid stuff there as a starter now for the New York Mets. So, yeah, I mean, again, expectation, you got to go into every series the rest of the year kind of hoping for and playing to win a series. You need that bye in the first round. Okay, thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping game 1 against the Mets. Before I send you on your way, rest in peace to Daryl Patterson, Detroit Tigers pitcher. The Tigers announced over the weekend at the end of last week that he had passed away at 81 years old. Was a big-name rookie for the Tigers out of the bullpen for that 1968 team. Pitched for the Tigers for a few years, but part of that ever so meaningful 1968 World Series title team. And put up, 2 ERA ball as a rookie out of the bullpen for that squad. So forever a champion, forever a part of one of the most important teams in the history of this city. And rest in peace to Patterson there at 81 years of age. We'll be back tomorrow. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then. Go Tigers.